Welcome to the Mercedes Wilson Show. Are you aware that there are 42 million porn sites? And that the porn industry's annual revenue is more than the NFL, NBA, and MLB combined? Also, 11 years old is the average age that a child is first exposed to it. We need to talk about this.
You're amazing. There'll never be another like you. Captivating and sharing the things that really matter to you. When the weight of the world gets too heavy, take a ride with Mercedes. Be in the know on the Mercedes Wilson Show. Sharing the things that really Mercedes Wilson Show.
Welcome to the Mercedes Wilson Show. It's my hope that every show causes you to open up your Bible and see God in a new way. We want to tackle the real issues head on, and today we are going to do just that with Pastor Mark Sanders from Refuge Temple. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to apologize in advance that you have such a heavy topic.
It's all right.
But I know that you are more than capable to talk about this, and I'm so glad that you came. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you first.
Well, I'm pastor. I pastor Refuge Temple in Lockport, New York. I've been doing that for about 21 years. I'm a father, husband, and grandfather. I just really have a passion for people. I'm also a PK. I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up in church my whole life, and but I think what God has given me is I want to open the books that were closed. I want to open subject matter, open up people's hearts that have been hurt, wounded, and to talk about just talk about God in a way that people can relate to and address their hurts, needs, and concerns.
And you do that. Because I watched some of your videos, and yes, you do that. You do that. So today you have the privilege to talk about, we're going to talk about pornography and molestation, but first we're going to start with molestation. Full disclosure, I was sexually molested as a child, so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. And I want to start with a question that I'm interested to see how you answer. Is it a demon or a choice?
I want to say it's a demonic choice. No one forces you anything, but there are circumstances in people's lives that give them proclivity to certain sins. Things you have seen. Sometimes victims end up being perpetrators. So a lot of times research has said a lot of men who grew up to be abusers were abused themselves. But it's ultimately a choice. One thing I do know about it is that there's no real medical, psychological cure, but the only cure that I can find is the cure that's in Jesus Christ.
It's been going on in the church for years, though. Why have we allowed it, and what do we do about it?
There's sometimes in a culture that church is sometimes like our traditional home. What goes on in the house stays in the house. And that has caused many people to be injured. I think a lot of attention has been drawn, especially what's going on in the Catholic Church. And the crime is not as much that it was happening as the crime that we let it happen, continue to happen, and then reinforce the offenders that are committing, these heinous acts. Right.
And then meanwhile, the children grow up to be adults with the issues never dealt with. They never felt protected. So I have to ask, should leaders be prosecuted, or should it just be, well, God is a forgiving God, leave it alone?
Both. I believe that you commit a crime against a child, you commit a crime against anyone, you have to be held accountable to the standards of the land. Jesus at one time said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and unto God what is God's, which means that just because I can forgive you, but you still have to be accountable.
Right.
So forgiveness and grace does not remove accountability. Still got to be accountable.
That's good. And how do we minister to the children? Because I can tell you, as a child that was sexually molested, I was angry at God. Like, how could you let this happen? You're all powerful. You're all knowing. How, God, could you let this happen to me? How do we minister to those children who, in a lot of cases, are now adults?
I think the one thing that you have to understand, it wasn't God. Men make choices. You know, a lot of people, things happen in their lives. Lord, why did you take my mother away? Why did you God doesn't do that. God is a loving God. Men make choices, and God gives us the grace to go through them. But ministering to children, I think one of the things we have to do is give them a voice.
Yeah.
Because that's what molestation does. It robs the voice.
Yeah.
You can't speak. You can't react. You can't talk about it. And a lot of time adults are guilty of silencing children even when they start showing signs. You know, child automatically starts wetting the bed all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Or something that's, because it's traumatic. You know, one of the things I hate is that they label it as a sex crime. It's a crime of violence and control. Sex is just the vehicle. But it's not about sex. It's about violence and control. It's a violent act.
Now, one thing you said earlier I want to touch on again is the church sometimes has the what happens in this house stays in the house, just like families do. How do we address that?
I think for one thing, you have to address it by making it very clear. I will never cover a criminal in my church. I will love them, forgive you. I'll even visit you in jail.
That's good.
But the fact is you have to be accountable, because the justice of the land is not an enemy of God. The Bible tells us in Romans that even God uses authorities and that we are subject to those authorities. So I can forgive you and give you grace, but you have to be, like I said, you have to go back to being accountable. The church has to start talking about it.
Yeah. And
not just talking about it, but also providing ministry and assistance to both. Now, on one hand, you have to, we're all about providing ministry to the victim. But somewhere we're going to have to think about how do we provide ministry to the offenders.
And I want to talk about that when we come back. Again, thank you so much for talking about this.
No problem.
We will be right back with Pastor Mark Sanders. This is a heavy topic. Stay with us.
There are thousands of local job openings that pay between $30,000 to $50,000 a year, and you can get the skills you need at Northland Workforce Training Center. Northland is an extension campus of SUNY Erie and Alfred State College, preparing students for advanced manufacturing and energy jobs. We provide career coaching, financial aid assistance, transportation, and childcare. Get started at one of our weekly pre-enrollment sessions. Train for what's next at Northland Workforce Training Center.
But you keep pulling me But you keep pulling me You bitch. I need to see if I get it's that feeling. But you keep pulling me Love away, love away Love away, love away Baby, don't you love away, love away Work for me, oh love away, love away Don't punch out till I get up
Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse. Are you in need of a new kitchen without the hassle of a total remodel? Our service is quick, easy, and convenient. Let us install your work with our hand-picked, licensed installation professionals. You will love your new kitchen. We guarantee it. Home Depot, a name you can trust. Call James Wilson today at 216-322-0766.
Hope, the new book by Mercedes E. Wilson, is a personal testimony of strength, determination, and faith in God, helping to overcome life's struggles. Buy it in hardcover, paperback, or Kindle edition on Amazon.com today.
Welcome back to the Mercedes Wilson Show. Pastor Mark stayed. Because
here.
he's going to talk this heavy topic with us today, and we're going to continue our conversation on child molestation. And I really want to know your thoughts on how we, the church, can connect better with community resources that can help.
I think that there's a lot of organizations that are out there. One of the main connections you have to actually make is with law enforcement. They have, most law enforcement agencies have people that specialize in those type of crimes and work with people like Child Advocacy Center and different groups like that that help in that area. I don't see that as a betrayal. I don't see that, yes, I'm spiritual, but this area goes beyond spiritual. It goes into some things that, and especially a lot of pastors need to know that sometimes, to use the analogy, you're out of your pay grade in counseling. There's a level of counseling that you have to defer and say, I'm not equipped to deal with that, and I'm going to give it to the professionals that deal with this type of matter.
But hasn't the pressure been put on pastors to kind of be all of that? Well, if we got an issue, let's go to pastor.
We're not all that. We're not a jack of all trades.
Right.
And to me, you do more harm than good if you start dabbling in the area. And to me, sometimes that's pride. You got to humble yourself and say, this is not my area, but I am connected enough to find those people that can address these matters.
Yeah. So if you have a family that comes and sits in your office, and in the counsel session, the child reveals that they've been sexually molested, and the guilty party is in the room as well, what does Pastor Mark Sanders do, and what would you suggest other pastors to do? Okay,
first, I said for myself and pastors, we're all mandated reporters, which means that we have to do some type of action, and that's an action outside of ourselves. I'm going to first let the family know that I have to report this to some level of authority, and most likely with me, it's going to be the police. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm bringing in patrol cars. I might bring in a detective to do there and them take over some of the interview and start to minister and help that child. But I have to be very clear, and I'm going to tell the parents, I'm not sitting on this. I'm forgiveness and grace and love, it doesn't leave me, even for the offender. I still love you, but this is something that we're going to have to go forward because this child well-being needs to be addressed. And as a Christian, Christians shouldn't have a problem with justice.
Right.
There's some things that have to be done, because if not, that child will lose faith in God, the system, and me.
And how do you then minister to the soul of the person that actually did?
It's a difficult one, because I might be a part of the destruction of their life. But I didn't initiate it.
I was going to say, but you're really not a part, though, right?
Because and I could probably have members that are mad at me, family members, but to me, I am accountable to someone higher than family members, church members, and trustees and all that. I'm accountable to God, and I'll be able to go to sleep at night.
Right.
Knowing that I did what I was supposed to do.
So maybe that could be a part of the problem, is not everybody wants to face it like you would head on and have everybody angry at them. Take the chance of the church falling apart because people are at odds with, Pastor, why did you have to say anything? God forgives. So that could be a part of the problem, is caring about what others are going to think of you.
And I ain't got time for that. When it comes to children, I love children. I go into schools. Children are innocent and they are voiceless. And sometimes we have to be a voice to those that have no voice. That was the whole concept of Jesus Christ. Jesus said, whatever you do unto the least of these, you've done unto me. So if I'm going to stand up for Jesus, I have to stand up for the least of these, which in that respect are children.
Yeah. Have you ever preached on molestation and what's going on in the church?
I deal with it all the time, from people coming after a message, responding to a message. I've asked people to raise their hands who have been molested and let them know that they're not by themselves. Because if we did a real poll, people are not by themselves. And a lot of people feel like they are by themselves. And sometimes people need to know that they're not by themselves. And I don't believe that we should call ourselves the church if we're not willing to tackle everything. We got to be able to dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly. We just can't jump around, praise and shout, and we have to deal with some ugly stuff in order for people to get healed.
That's good. That's good. Can you touch again on all pastors are mandated reporters. So if that is going on in your church, you need to do something. Can you please express the importance one more time?
You have to do something, even if it's not on you. The fact of making a phone call is doing something. If I call over to a detective division or Make It Known or Child Advocacy Center or whatever, I've done my due diligence. So you have to do due diligence. You are civilly liable. You can get to the point of being criminally liable. But my biggest liable, I don't want to be liable to God.
Right.
When I have to stand before God and said, why didn't you say something?
Yeah.
Because I was afraid. No, you have to. And it's painful because you're about to be a part of the destruction of some people's lives.
Yeah. Wow. This is good. Stay with me because we have one more segment I get to keep Pastor Mark one more time, and we get to tackle pornography. Stay with us.
But you keep pulling me. But you keep pulling me. You need it. I need to see it. It's that feeling. But you keep pulling me. Love away, love away. Love away, love away. Baby, don't you love away, love away. Work for me, oh. Love away, love away. Don't punch out till I get up.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
A good accountant.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes, thank you.
If you are looking for one as well, look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend. Problem gone.
Thank you.
I'm Mercedes Wilson, and it's only because of the blood of Jesus that I am victorious. I remember sitting in the room with the doctors and them telling me that I was stage 2 breast cancer, and the room started spinning. My world came crashing down, and I'm so grateful for this book and to be able to tell my story and share it with the world. Pick up the book on Amazon, westbowpress.com, or Barnes & Noble online. Trust me, if he can do it for me, he will do it for you. Welcome back to the Mercedes Wilson Show. Pastor Mark did not run off, so we get to talk about another heavy topic.
Heavy.
Pornography. Now, the statistics are crazy, and I want to read a couple of them and then get some of your responses on how we can address this. So there are around 42 million porn websites, which averages around 370 million pages of porn. The porn industry's annual revenue is more than the NFL, NBA, and MLB combined. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, is this surprising to you?
No.
No? Why
No.
is it not surprising?
It's not surprising to it because of the lives that's affecting. People think, we love to talk about heroin and cocaine and all the different, and I know some people differ, but this is actually an addiction problem. This is not about pleasure. Mm-hmm. This is about addiction. This is about some deep-seated problems. And that revenue stream, somebody's getting rich.
Wait a minute, so it has nothing to do with pleasure and it's about addiction?
To me, when you talk about pornography, a lot of people just see it as, it's something fun because that's the imagery. And there's a spiritual element to it too. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's people having fun and enjoying themselves. But some people never consider that's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's son. And with people that are being driven to it, you don't spend billions and billions of dollars on something that's just for some casual fun.
Right.
Look at the revenue. I mean, football's not an addiction. It doesn't raise that much money. If you look
it raises a lot, but not as much as.
Well, look at the drug industry, which you cannot measure the amount of money that comes in through that. And pornography, what do both have in common? What other industry is generating that much money that loosely, and we cannot bring the connections to a main source? We know who runs football. We know who runs basketball.
That's true.
This is a sea of components.
Right. So I'm gonna give you a couple more stats, because then we're gonna talk about how you address it in the church. How can we address it? 47% of families in the U.S. reported that pornography is a problem in their home, and pornography use increases the marital infidelity rate by more than 300%. 11 years old is the average age that a child is first exposed to porn, and 94% of the children will see porn by age of 14. How do you talk about this? And do you talk about it?
You have to talk about it. A lot of people have made it it's not a men's issue.
It's not.
It's a human issue. And the fact is that, and let me just say, I have to make a disclosure. I'm not coming as a professional. I don't have a doctorate in this, but there's experience and life experience.
You have to hear about it, though.
You hear about it, and you hear how it affects families. As a person, as a pastor who counsels people in marriage, it's there, but it's a shame that goes with it. So that's the last thing a husband or a wife wants to bring up, is the fact is, I'm viewing porn every night.
But when it comes up, how do you address it?
You address it as for what it is. I really believe that the addiction to porn, and I keep using that word addiction, because if kids are being exposed to it as early as 11, just as cocaine creates a pop, and when somebody first tries it, that's what porn does. Because what porn does, when you see it, you want more. So why do you think people go often to these very bizarre forms of porn? Bestiality and child pornography and all because that pop is never satisfied. It's never satisfied. I really believe that a lot of men, even when I have I'll just use for example, a wife, my husband's watching pornography and she thinks there's something wrong with her. I don't care.
That's how it goes too.
I don't care who you are, how beautiful it has. And I tell wives, it doesn't have a lot to do with you. It's about him. It's not the emptiness in you, it's the emptiness in him that he's trying to fill it with something else. He has a beautiful woman right next to him, but would rather get up, go to the bathroom, and get on his phone or his iPad and view pornography. It's not anything to do with her.
So what's the next step after that couple, tells you that? What do you tell the young man or the young woman to do?
Expose it. If it's a man coming by himself or a woman, you need to expose it to your spouse, your mate, and tell him what's going on. And the next thing I believe is a level of accountability. Tell a close friend. Tell a very spiritual person, this is what my issue is, and hold yourself accountable. Now, a lot of people believe there's actually software you put on your computer, put on your phone, that will give a ding or let someone know. But you have to practice being accountable and expose it. There's counseling. There is SAA, which is Sex Addicts Anonymous. Just as they have NA and AA, there is, because that's about addiction. The way you get delivered from that is almost the same way you get delivered from cocaine, drugs, or anything else. First, have to acknowledge you can't control it. People say, I can stop anytime I want. Now, that sounds familiar. That's every drug addict I know. And so you have to deal with it as a pervasive problem.
What do you say to the parents who have teenagers that may be struggling? They come in and say, listen, my son or daughter is dealing with this.
Don't demonize them. Society has created the porn culture. From twerking on Instagram to all that, we've created a porn culture. Now, I tell anybody, I believe that Jesus Christ can do anything. Job said, I've made a covenant with my eyes not to look upon a woman in lust. One of the things that every time I see a woman out, no matter how beautiful she is, first thing you have to see is, that's somebody's daughter. If I'm looking at Mercedes Wilson, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's wife. So it should kind of curve my eyes in a certain way. And when you see, another aspect of pornography to bring up is sex trafficking.
That's huge.
There are women that are locked in rooms all day long just making porn for someone. And so as we've seen the rise in porn, we've also seen the rise in concerns of human trafficking, which is a main component. Men see women, they're just having fun on the screen. No, a lot of those women are prisoners.
Yeah.
And that's a component we don't think about.
Wow. So this puts a mandate on the church.
It does.
We have a little over a minute left. Can you speak to the mandate that it puts on the church? What does that mean we have to do?
We have to talk about it. We have to take the judgment. It's not just some pervert. I know couples have introduced it in their marriage and regret it. Well, we got to do something to spice up our marriage. Don't use porn.
Yeah.
Don't use porn. Don't use porn. So I think we have to start talking about it without judgment.
Yeah.
Without judgment. Just like we took the judgment off the addict and took the judgment off the alcohol. Take the judgment off that person where they can come freely and talk about it, and so they can be accountable.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Pastor Mark. I want to thank Pastor Mark for being here today. We will be right back with some final thoughts.
Looking to better your health and lifestyle? Connect with Stephanie Krebs to get started with Young Living and set your goals into action. Call 585-708-4020 or online at bodysensehcn.com.
Restore your body, beauty, and soul with Capriceology.com, providing wellness and ministry services for your church and family with master herbalist, iridologist, and conference speaker Caprice Butts. Are you as healthy as you want to be? Nutritional help is just a click away with online wellness packages and consultations. Or grab your friends and book a wellness workshop for your church group. Plus, get daily inspiration to revive you from the inside out. Restore your body, beauty, and soul with Capriceology.com. Subscribe today for a free wellness guide.
Power965radio.com, the new sound of Buffalo, is a proud supporter of The Mercedes Wilson Show. They have a full lineup of unique programs. Find out more about the station's owner, Sheila Brown, in her new book, 29 Years of Preparation, at Power965radio.com.
Wardrobe for The Mercedes Wilson Show was provided by Clothes Mentor in Tonawanda, New York. Grade A looks for less.
I want to thank Pastor Mark Sanders for sitting with me today and talking about such heavy topics. Learn more about this show and all that we have going on our website, MercedesEWilson.com, and follow me on all social media handles at Mercedes E. Wilson. And don't forget to check out all of the shows on our podcast. Share this show with someone you love. And again, we will see you again next week.
You remember